So we'll discuss radius first better. Now basically you should know the bony features before we go with any other thing. Like any long bone, what are the things I asked you to remember? The radius is medial bone or lateral bone. It is one of the bone what we find in the forearm. So in the forearm we have two bones. So this is the correct anatomical position, right? In that cadaver, like little finger will be medial and thumb will be lateral. Okay, the body is lying something like this on the like dissection table. Okay, so little finger is medial and thumb is lateral. Okay, now when you know like medial and lateral, so this is our forearm. From the elbow to the wrist, whatever we have is forearm. So here we have two bones. The medial one is ulnar and the lateral one towards the thumb is radius. So radius is one of the forearm bone which is placed laterally. So any long bone, basically we should know three features. Like what are those? Yesterday also I told you, it has upper end, it has shaft and it has lower end. So upper end has head, then neck and radial tuberosity. Shaft will have borders and surfaces. And lower end has the styloid process, and we will see what are the special features it has. First let us discuss the upper end. So upper end of the radius, it is round, okay, and it is like superiorly you will see the upper end is showing one notch, okay, a depression like this, okay. So this notch is actually intended, if you remember yesterday's bone humerus, like lower end of the humerus and the lateral aspect we had head-like projection which I said capitulum. So basically this superiorly you will see the capitulum will be articulating at the head of the radius to form the radio-ulnar joint, sorry, not radio-ulnar, elbow joint. Humeroradial joint, humeroradial, which is one of the component of elbow joint. So immediately below the head we have neck, and like any other bone, always the articular surfaces are covered with hyaline cartilage. So even this is also covered with hyaline cartilage. So this is head, then we have neck. Okay, so just below the neck we have this elevation which is called as radial tuberosity. Okay, now we'll see this is the upper end, and then after that we have shaft. Okay, so then lower end has the styloid process, and there is ulnar notch medially. Okay, this is the medial end of the bone which is pointing towards the ulnar. This is the lateral end of the bone which is showing the styloid process. Okay, so this is what is this? This is ulnar notch in the radius bone. Okay, so which is articulating with the head of the ulnar to form inferior radio ulnar joint. Okay, inferior radio ulnar joint. So now, see, let us see the features. Then I will tell you the like muscle attachments. So we know radius is the lateral bone of the forearm. It is homologous to medial bone of the leg. Okay, why it is homologous to medial bone of the leg? Because during embryological development, limbs will undergo rotation. Okay, so that's why in the lower limbs you will see the one which is in the upper limb will be opposite. Okay, due to the rotation of limbs. Then the parts of radius bone are, it's a long bone like any other long bone. It has upper end, it has shaft, and it has lower end. Okay, so head is presenting a disc-like depression, right? It is articulating above with the capitulum of the humerus. Neck is constricted like any other bone. So radial tuberosity is just below the medial part of the neck. Now, coming to the shaft, it has lateral convexity. Okay, which is the lateral convexity? Let us see again. See, this is the lateral convexity, and it is expanded downwards, okay, to form the lower end, which has the styloid process and the ulnar nodes in the radius. Basically, if you have bone in your hand, you will be able to appreciate more better. No problem, but still I will try to make you understand. So, the lateral border is showing convexity. It widens rapidly downwards towards the distal end, and it is concave anterior. Then it's which is the interosseous border here. See, this border which is towards the radial tuberosity, which is towards the ulna bone, this is the interosseous border. That means medial border is interosseous border for radius. This will be opposite for ulna. Interosseous border of ulna will be the lateral border because this border becomes near to the midline. So this is our midline of our body when we keep the body in correct anatomical position. So for radius, towards the radial tuberosity, we have the medial border. Away, the more convexity, whatever you are finding is the lateral border. Between the medial and lateral borders, you are finding there is one line which is called as anterior oblique line. Okay, that's what is written here. So the medial border is the sharpest border, which is also called as interosseous border. Now, before I show you in this way, I will show you, I'll take you to the bone again. So see here, when you talk about the lower end of the radius, basically radius will have 5 surfaces. Okay, what are the 5 surfaces? Which will be the better? Okay, suppose this is, so the lower end of the radius, so it has, what are the surfaces it has? One surface which you can see from front is anterior surface. The other surface which you see from behind is the posterior surface. The one which is towards the midline is the medial surface, and the one which is away from midline is lateral surface. And one surface which you will see from lower down, that will be inferior surface. So overall, how many surfaces it has? Lower end of the radius is expanded and it is showing 5 surfaces. Okay, it has anterior surface. From behind you have posterior surface. Okay, towards the radial tuberosity we know it is medial side, right? So this side we have medial surface, away you have lateral surface, and lower down below we have inferior surface. Like that we have 5 surfaces in the radius bone. Give it up. Then now the lateral surface only is projecting downwards to form styloid process. Styloid process we found in some other bone also, no? Skull bone. So we will see styloid process in radius, in ulna, in skull bone. Sometimes styloid process itself can be a 3 marks question. Okay. Now coming to the posterior aspect, see, basically the posterior aspect, you remember I told you when we were talking about the humerus bone, we have medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. Medial epicondyle gives origin to all flexors. We call it as common flexor origin. Lateral epicondyle, it gives origin to all extensors, common extensor origin. So obviously, posterior side will have extensors, isn't it? So all extensor tendons will be passing through the like lower end of the radius to enter into the palm. Because finally they will get inserted in the palm only in the different bones we will discuss. So now you will see there is one elevation on the posterior aspect of the lower end of the radius. You call it as Lister's tubercle or dorsal tubercle. Okay, and then you will find so many depressions or grooves through which you will see the long extensor tendons will be passing. Okay, suppose this is the lower end of the radius. So you can see in fact certain extensor tendons are there. Okay, you can see one extensor, I don't know if it is visible. So these tendons will be passing through the posterior aspect to get inserted. Okay, so that is the lower end of the radius. Let us see what are the points which are given under the lower end of the radius. See, lower end is the widest part and I told you it has 5 surfaces. Okay, the lateral surface is projecting downwards to form styloid process. The posterior surface, what I said, it's written dorsal surface, meaning is same. It is presenting a palpable tubercle which is called as Lister's tubercle or tubercle of Lister, which is limited medially by oblique groove. I'll show you what is this oblique groove. So this is the oblique groove, okay, which is present medially. Okay, and here we have the Lister's tubercle. Okay. Now coming to anatomical position, I hope you understood by now how to hold the bone. First thing is we have to check for Which is upper end, which is lower end, we have to be very clear. You have to check for the head and hold it upright. You identify it as upper end. Check for the radial tuberosity. You hold it in such a way like the radial tuberosity should face medially. But again, there will be a confusion. You just check for this anterior oblique line, which will be faced anteriorly. Okay. Then check for Lister's tubercle. Obviously, that Lister's tubercle will be posterior. Place the bone in such a way that the head is upwards, radial tuberosity medially, and Lister's tubercle posteriorly. These 3 points are enough for you to actually determine whether this radius is belonging to right side or left side. Okay, hope you understood that. So that is. Now let us see what points are given here. The anatomical position of radius. The narrow disc-shaped head end is directed upwards. Interosseous border is sharp and below it is medial border. Styloid process is the lateral one, which is projecting downwards. Okay, and convexity of shaft is facing laterally, and you can check for Lister's tubercle posteriorly. All these points will help us to determine the radius bone, isn't it? This is all over. So apart from that, you also have certain borders, isn't it? What are the various borders we have? We have 3 borders. One is anterior border, posterior border, and interosseous border, which is also called as medial border. Let us go to the book. The anterior, see all these borders except the interosseous border, all other borders are only arbitrary. So the border which is running roughly in the front region, you call it as anterior border. Okay, and the one if you see from behind, you will find one more border from behind which will be posterior border. Okay, then the border which is towards the radial tuberosity, which is sharpest among all, is the medial border, which is also called as interosseous border. So how many borders we have? 3 borders: anterior, posterior, and interosseous border. Okay. Now between the anterior border and interosseous border, we will have anteromedial surface. Okay. Between the anterior border and posterior border, you will have the anterolateral surface. Okay. Then we have between the interosseous border and posterior border, we will have posterior surface. If the bone is in your hand, it becomes more clear for you to make out. Okay, basically you remember it has 3 borders: anterior, posterior, and the interosseous. Okay, an anteromedial surface, anterolateral, and behind is the posterior surface. Okay, so that is. To summarize fast, I said it has like radius bone, it has upper end, it has shaft, it has lower end. Check for the head of the radius, neck, and radial tuberosity. In the shaft, only one border which is very prominent is the interosseous border, which is also called as the medial border. Correspondingly, in the center of this interosseous border, quite opposite, we have a roughened area which shows the insertion of pronator teres muscle. The borders what we have in the shaft are anterior, posterior, and interosseous or medial border. Surfaces are anteromedial, anterolateral, and posterior. Lower end of the radius has 5 surfaces. What are those? Anterior, posterior, lateral, medial, and inferior. Okay, inferior will be articulating with the carpal bones. Okay, scaphoid and trapezium. Okay, inferior aspect. To form, it takes part in the formation of wrist joint. Okay. Well, let us see the muscle attachments. So, what are the muscle attachments we have? See here, this is the anterior aspect of radius. So, in the radial tuberosity, we are seeing the insertion of biceps brachii. Do you remember from where biceps comes? Supraglenoidal tubercle is one coracoid process of the scapula is Kannur origin. It has 2 heads, that's why it is called as biceps. Please read regularly so that you will remember everything. Okay, insertion is in radial tuberosity. And this is the shaft of the radius, and upper one third of the shaft is receiving the insertion of supinator. Yesterday we have seen the origin of the supinator from the lower end of the humerus. Okay, just now I have shown you one oblique line anteriorly. It is actually giving origin to flexor digitorum superficialis. Just now we have also discussed about roughened area quite opposite to the midpoint of the interosseous border. I told you it is receiving the insertion of pronator tunis. Okay, so between the radius and ulna, that is the interosseous border of radius and interosseous border of ulna, between these two bones we will have interosseous membrane. Okay, and anteriorly the interosseous membrane will be giving origin to the flexors. Posteriorly the interosseous membrane will be giving origin to extensors. What muscle are we finding in the anterior aspect of the anteromedial surface of the shaft of the radius along with interosseous membrane? It's giving origin to flexor pollicis longus muscle. Okay, and this is the lower end of the radius. The lower end of the radius, we know it has how many surfaces? It has 5 surfaces. So let us see the anterior surface is receiving the insertion of pronator quadratus. Okay, so laterally it is receiving the insertion of brachioradialis. And you can see lower end is giving attachment to the capsule of rhizome. Upper end will be giving attachment to the capsule of elbow joint. Okay, these are anterior attachments. Now coming to the posterior, the supinator's insertion is continuing here. Biceps brachia is also seen from this aspect. When you see, I told you between the interosseous border of radius and interosseous border of ulna, we have interosseous membrane. The posterior aspect of the interosseous membrane, it's giving origin to what muscles we are finding here? The radius is the lateral bone which is close to the thumb. So the muscles which are moving towards the thumb are abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. Pollicis means thumb. Brevis means small muscle. Okay. Longus means long muscle. Abductor means this movement. Away from midline is abduction. Adduction. Okay. Coming near the body is adduction. Going away from the midline is abduction. So like that, abductor pollicis longus action you can make out from the name itself. Brings about the abduction of the thumb. Okay, prehensile action. So this is about radius bone. Okay. Now we have different types of fractures like Colles fracture and Smith's fracture. You are finding that the lower end of the radius is fractured and the distal fragment is displaced posteriorly. Okay. Then suppose if the distal fragment is displaced anteriorly, we have two different types of fractures, Colles and Smith's fracture. You can see here. Okay. Now this is the lower end of the radius and ulna. So towards the thumb, you can make out this is the lower end of the radius bone which is expanded, whereas lower end of the ulna bone will be comparatively narrow. Okay, and they are not lying in the same plane. Actually, radius length is little longer downwards when you compare with ulna. Okay, then there may be a fracture which is occurring due to the fall over the wrist region. Okay, you can see avulsed ulnar styloid process may be there. Then distal fragment of the radius overrides the rest of the bone. Okay, this is Dinner-Foulkes deformity. This condition is called as Dinner-Foulkes deformity, also called as Colles fracture. Colles fracture, C-O-L-L-E apostrophe. See here. The fracture at the distal end of the radius, that is Colles fracture. Distal fragment is displaced backwards and upwards. If it is forwards and downwards, then you call it as Smith's fracture. Two different pictures were kept. Okay, you please remember Colles fracture because it can come as 3 marks question. Dinner-Foulkes deformity, Colles fracture, where the distal fragment of the radius is fractured and the distal fragment is displaced backwards and forwards. Okay, for this fracture. Okay, I hope you understood. This is very, very important. Apart from that, you have other clinical conditions also, like there may be fracture in the shaft of the radius, okay, below the insertion of biceps. Okay, then fracture of styloid process of radius is called as Chaffeur's fracture. Okay, so radius is commonly fractured bone in people over 50 years of age. Why? Because after 50 years, bones tend to become porous, no? Osteoporosis, because of which the bones get easily fractured. Okay, so that is the fracture of radius. And coming to the ossification, the radius is ossifying from following three ossification centers. Primary, always we are finding it is coming at 8th week of uh, intrauterine life, isn't it? So we have two secondary centers, one for each end, isn't it? So center for the lower end appears at the age of first year, upper end during fifth year. So upper end is fusing at the age of 12 years and lower end is fusing at 20th year. Yesterday we have seen humerus was fusing, upper end was the growing end of the bone, whereas for radius bone, the lower end is going and meeting with the shaft by 20th year. Okay, that means lower end is the growing end of the bone. Okay, so Maitland deformity. Congenital anomaly of radius, where you will see anterior bowing. That means the distal end of the radius is becoming more prominent anterior. Okay, it's not so important. Okay, I'll resend the link better because it will stop in 6 minutes.